Statseeker version 554 introduced a new analytic option, baselining. So what is it? Baselining is the process of analysing your historical data to produce a model of typical or expected behaviour. Now this might sound familiar because this is exactly what we use to model future behaviour in data forecasting and to compare current behaviour to established norms in anomaly detection. With the new baselining analytics, we're directly exposing that baseline model. Here we are looking at inbound utilisation for an interface over the last 7 days. To display our baseline data, I edit the report, edit the data series, and add our baseline data. So now we have our historical median, the orange dotted line here, and an indication of the variability in the data seen for this interface over the last 6 months. Here we've got what appears to be our weekend. We can see that while we typically experience low traffic levels, there have been some instances of some fairly high utilisation in the past, and we've got that again in this instance. Now the bounds we're seeing here are configurable, and they're currently set to 95%, indicating that only 5% of the data seen over the last 6 months falls outside of this shaded area. And that's what we can see here, and we term this anomalous data. Now we can modify the range of those bounds. We simply adjust the percentile value. We'll still have our baseline median plotted, but by reducing the percentile, we're topping and tailing the baseline range. Now, if you are using a baseline overlay to identify anomalous data, then best to keep it at the default of 95. In addition, the range of historical data used to generate the baseline is configurable. In our report config, we can see the baseline history here. By default, it's just going to use the last 180 days, but by using the editor, you can narrow this down to any time range within that 180-day scope. Let's say you made a major routing change within your network 8 weeks ago. You can configure the baseline used to only take into account data from that point onwards. Or maybe you experienced hardware failure leading to some unusually high loads for a few weeks until replacement infrastructure could be brought to bear on the issue. In that instance, you can set an exclusion period so that known unusual data period is not included when building a model of typical behaviour for use in anomaly detection. And as always, you've got access to the advanced time filter editor and its ability to test your time filters for you. Now, adding the baseline overlay to a dashboard graph panel is a little different. So we'll start with the same initial report. To add the baseline, I'll just copy the field I want the baseline for and update the format to baseline. The options field contains our baseline time filter, the same editor available just like the custom report, but the percentile value here works differently. In the custom report that we just saw, the percentile describes the range of historical values used to produce the baseline overlay. Everywhere else, and that's custom tabular reports, dashboard panels, and our threshold configurations, the percentile is just that, the percentile. We still want our median, so we can leave it at 50. We also need to specify the upper and lower bounds for our model. So upper bounds, and we can see that it defaults to a percentile of 97.5, just like the upper bounds in the custom graph, and the lower bounds to 2.5. I'll just tidy the series labels. Now, if we refresh, we'll get our 3 series. And let's fix the visuals. Display tab, series overrides. Let's do our baseline. So lines are off, dashes are on, dash length, dash space, and line width set to 3, and I'll set the colour. Lower bounds, set the colour again. Upper bounds, set the colour, and fill below to lower bounds. And now we've got the same visual presentation as we do from our custom report. Tabular reports and dashboard table panels are configured entirely the same. The view we have here is the report config and the report itself. So we have the device name and the average total bytes. So total bytes and the format is average. Next, we've got the baseline median. Total bytes again. The format is baseline average and the percentile is 50th. And then we have the difference between the two. The format is comparison and the percentile is 50th. The baseline comparisons are between the specified percentile and the average of whatever attribute we have set. I've then repeated the config for the 95th percentile. Format is 95th. The baseline average. Format is baseline average and the percentile is 95th. And for the last column, the format is baseline comparison and the percentile is 95th. And the comparison is between the baseline 95th and the attribute average. Remember, baseline comparisons are between the specified percentile and the average in every instance. Now, the same formats that we've just seen with the table configuration, they're available in our threshold configuration. So we'll set a threshold for WAN link, inbound traffic, that's 20% over expected values. The format is baseline comparison above 20, and I'll make it a 15-minute rolling average assessed every 5 minutes. And that's a quick look at using baseline data in reports, dashboards, and threshold configuration.